Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Read Aloud for Lesson 3.10 or 3.10, a family preparedness plan. Knowing the weather forecast can help you plan your day. You may decide that you need to carry a rain jacket with you as you leave your house, or maybe you realize that the weather is going to prevent you from spending much time outside. Generally, a weather forecast simply allows you to be better prepared for the day. Sometimes, however, a weather forecast takes on an even greater significance. A forecast may alert you when unusually stormy weather is headed your way. Being prepared for very bad weather, or even for a natural disaster, is a smart step for families to take so they can be safe. In this lesson, you are going to learn about a family preparedness plan and why having this type of plan in place can be so important. You also are going to be encouraged to design a preparedness plan with your family. If you already have one in place, you'll be encouraged to revisit it and make sure it's updated and ready for action. So today, our guide actually has us talking about a family preparedness plan. We're going to be reading the ebook Survive a Hurricane and talking about what an evacuation order and that sort of thing is, and at least 5 things you should keep in a storm emergency kit. So those are all things that we're going to be doing in this particular lesson. Okay, we're going to start by reading the ebook Survive a Hurricane. So I'm going to open the ebook. Howl of the Hurricane. On the eve of September 6, 2004, Michelle Beck and her daughter sat worried inside their Florida home. They knew Hurricane Ivan would make landfall that night. The wind got louder. Michelle's dogs felt the pressure drop and began to whine. She stepped out back to see the storm. Powerful winds pushed her and whipped rain against her face. Back inside, the power blinked and went out. The wind had begun to shrink. It sounded like a woman screaming. Michelle and her daughter slept on a blanket in the bathroom. They could feel the house shake from heavy gusts. On the next morning, they saw the destruction Ivan had left. Roofs were torn off. Downed telephone poles blocked roads. Some houses were completely swept away, but Michelle and her daughter were safe. And she said that it sounded like the roof was just going to leave at any minute. Hurricanes are named from an alphabetical list starting each year with A. Hurricane Ivan was the 9th named storm in 2004, and here's a picture of some of the destruction that happened. How hurricanes happen. Hurricanes are one of the most dangerous forces on the planet. They begin as thunderstorms over tropical ocean waters. As they move, they pick up warm, moist air and grow larger. Then their wind speed increases and they begin to rotate. Meteorologists track hurricanes as they move over the ocean. They warn people about when and where they think a storm will hit. Okay, so you can kind of see here they've got the cold air sinking, going down, and then the hot air rising, it's circling up, and then you've got the eye of the storm and the eye wall. And remember, the eye wall is where most of the damage is going to happen as that passes over, because that's where the wind speeds are the strongest. Hurricanes that form in the northern part of the world spin counterclockwise. Those that form in the south spin clockwise. This is because of the Earth's rotation. Surviving nature's fury. The best way to survive a hurricane is to plan ahead. Make an evacuation plan. Pack supplies before the storm arrives. Listen to weather reports for orders to leave. Families in mobile homes, tall apartments, or coastal homes should evacuate. If you must evacuate, which means leave early. Heavy traffic can cause delays. Be sure to fill the car's gas tank before an evacuation is ordered. Gas stations may be closed or have longer lines once evacuation begins. So here's an emergency kit list that they say that you should have: a flashlight, extra blankets, a first aid kit, an emergency radio, candles, matches, dry or canned food, bottled water, clothing, sleeping bags, pillows, road maps, any medications you need, and a cell phone and a charger. Okay, or an extra battery bank will probably work well too. Preparing your house for a storm can prevent some damage. Hurricane winds turn everyday objects into flying weapons. Before a hurricane arrives, store any outdoor furniture or equipment that could be swept up. Windows should be covered with storm shutters or boarded up. Remove dead or dying branches from trees before the hurricane does it for you. Okay, so here's a hurricane wind scale. Over here they have 75 to 95 miles per hour. Roofs are damaged, shingles are ripped off, large tree branches are snapped off. Once it gets to a category 2, which is 96 to 110 miles per hour, major damage to roofs and sidings, small trees are uprooted or snapped, and power outage is likely. A category 3 is between 111 and 129 miles per hour. Roofs are completely ripped off, many trees are completely uprooted and broken, and there's no power or clean water for days or even weeks. Category 4, 130 to 156 miles per hour. Extreme damage to roofs and walls. Most trees are snapped or uprooted. An area becomes unlivable for weeks to months. And a category 5 is 157 miles per hour or plus. Many homes are destroyed, down power lines, and the area is unlivable for weeks to months. If you are waiting out the storm, stay inside away from windows. Listen to weather reports for updates. Some families add safe rooms to their houses. These strong shelters protect against high winds and flying debris. So you can kind of see this one looks like it's made out of concrete. Okay. Wait for the all clear before going outside. Do not be fooled by the sudden calm of the eye. When it passes over, winds briefly die down, but soon the other side of the storm hits. Hurricane winds drive huge amounts of water onto the shore. The rising of waters is called a storm surge. Prepare for flooding. If you live near the coast, move things off the floor to prevent flood damage. If you have a basement, move any valuables to a higher place. So coastal areas are going to get hit the most. After the storm. After a hurricane leaves the ocean, it grows weaker, but not before bringing heavy rains. This can cause severe flooding. Avoid floodwaters. They may hide down power lines or fast-moving water. Flooding can mix sewage or harmful chemicals into the drinking water. Do not drink water from the sink until authorities say it is safe. So you can kind of see the floods. I lived quite a while in Centralia, Washington, and the river there floods on a fairly regular basis, and it's a big river. And so when you see standing water, you never drive through it because oftentimes the water is deeper. Plus, usually when the water gets kind of like in this picture in the Centralia area, it floods the sewage treatment plant. And so all of that dirty water that comes out of toilets and lines actually goes into the water that's flooded and is all over town. I've seen floods lift up cars and freezers and refrigerators and float them out of houses and send them down the road. So never, ever, ever drive into severe floodwaters because you don't know what's under it. And remember, if there's a down power line, if there's electricity still going through that power line, electricity and water does not mix well. You could actually be electrocuted. So be careful of those down power lines. Anytime you get down power lines on a street, if you're in a car, you have to stop and don't get out of your car because those rubber tires that are in between the road and your car are actually keeping that electricity that's going into the ground from electrocuting you. And so it's really important if you're in a car and there's a down power line, don't move, just stay there and wait for the utility company to come and turn off the power. Even after the storm, there are dangers. People may be trapped in their homes. Power outages can last for days. Damaged buildings may crumble without warning. Avoid down power lines and watch out for broken glass and other debris. Hurricanes can be deadly, but your chance of survival can increase. Prepare well and stay safe during and after a hurricane. Many names. In the Indian Ocean, hurricanes are called cyclones. In the Western Pacific, they are called typhoons. Their scientific name is tropical cyclones. Okay, and then that is the end of the book. So going back to the activity. No matter where you live in the world, severe weather and natural disasters may occur. No matter your climate zone, you will experience weather-related challenges. Some areas in the world are vulnerable to tropical storms or hurricanes. Other areas are vulnerable to tornadoes. And on any given day, there may be people in one part of the world dealing with flooding, while people in another part are battling raging wildfires. No matter where you live in the world, the important thing is to stay informed and be prepared so that you can stay safe. The first step in being prepared is to know the types of severe weather or weather-related challenges that typically occur in your climate zone. Do you need to be prepared for hurricanes? Do you need to be prepared for the possibility of wildfires? Is the area in which you live prone to tornadoes? Consider the state of Florida. If you live in Florida, you live in a temperate climate near the ocean. If you don't live on the coast, you still live relatively near the ocean because Florida is a peninsula. A peninsula is a region of land that sticks out in a body of water. Peninsulas have water on all three sides, so on three sides, such as Florida's Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic Ocean. Florida is known as the Sunshine State for a reason. Because of the temperate climate and proximity to the ocean, Florida often has beautiful sunny weather. But this same climate and location make Florida vulnerable to tropical storms and hurricanes. If you live in Florida, it is important to be prepared for tropical storms and hurricanes. Are there other weather-related challenges for which Florida residents should be prepared? Let's consider the geography of the land. If you study the topography of Florida, you will see that the average elevation above sea level is 30 meters, 98 feet. Elevation is the height the land rises above the sea. Compare Florida's average elevation of 30 meters with the elevation of two adjacent states. Georgia has an average elevation of 183 meters, or 600 feet. And Alabama has an average elevation of 152 meters, or 500 feet. Florida is comparatively much lower in elevation than these two neighboring states. Florida's low elevation makes the state vulnerable to which weather-related challenge, other than tropical storms and hurricanes? So think about that for a minute. We're going to look at the answer here. Areas with low elevation, such as Florida, are vulnerable to surge flooding. Surge flooding is a sudden rise in waters near the coast and may happen a day before a tropical storm or hurricane even makes landfall. So it could start with flooding, or after it's all done, there could be flooding. So flooding is something that states that have low elevation need to watch out for. When a family puts a preparedness plan in place, they are attempting to prepare for a possible threatening situation just in case it occurs. Hopefully, families will never have to put their plans into action. But if the need arises, they will be better prepared to deal with weather emergencies. Different states have websites available to help people create a family preparedness plan. For example, the Florida Division of Emergency Management has a website that can assist you in developing a plan for your family. Visit the ready.gov Make a Plan website to get prepared. Discuss the 4 questions under Step 1 with your family members. How will I receive emergency alerts and warnings? What is my shelter plan? What is my evacuation route? And what is my family or household communication plan? There are so many resources available to help keep you and your family safe. Explore the website with a family member. If your family already has a plan in place, visit the website and read through the information. You may learn some useful tips that can help you improve your current plan. The information on the website may even make you aware of details you previously haven't thought of. Why do you think it's important for a family to design a preparedness plan together? I want you to think about this. Truly, it's important to plan together so everybody knows what the plan is. Be smart. Design or improve a family preparedness plan so that you can be ready for any weather-related challenges. Now, here in Washington State, one of the things that you will see along the roads is you will see a blue sign that actually shows, this shows like a hurricane, but what we have here is we have tsunamis, and there's going to be a picture of really big waves, and it's going to say evacuation route. And so tsunamis happen when there is an earthquake out in Puget Sound or out in the ocean. It actually creates tidal waves. And when those tidal waves hit land, they can surge and flood some of the coastal areas. And here in the Shelton area, we have Oakland Bay, and there's all kinds of little inlets and areas here in the Puget Sound. And so if there was an earthquake out in the Puget Sound, it would be possible that some of that water that's out in the sound will come surging in into land. And if that happens, basically what you need to do is you and your family would need to get in your car before the surge hit, if you knew it was coming, and move to higher ground. And these tsunami evacuation routes will have directions for which way you should go to get to the highest area of ground. Okay. My family, we are actually spread out right now, but if there was ever a fire, we would meet at the neighbor's house. And we're actually at a pretty high elevation right now, so tsunamis are less likely. But we have a camping kit that we keep everything in. And so if we had to go, we could throw stuff into that camping kit. And it's in a big tub. It has cleaning supplies, dishes. We have water that we've bottled in the kitchen that sits in there, and we could grab that and throw it in there with some sleeping bags. And one thing that people don't think about is medications and food. It's always important to have food, not just for you, but for your animals as well. So sometimes making a kit that you can keep in a tub and then you just keep it in the garage probably won't have your medications in it, but at least it will be have most of your safety equipment in it, and then you can just toss that into the back of a vehicle and drive off if you need to, or grab it and haul it wherever you need to go. So it's always important to be smart and communicate with family members. One of the things that they say in a disaster, you should always have one phone number of somebody who is outside of the state of Washington. And the reason for that, excuse me, is that usually so many people are trying to call and talk to each other within the state when there's a disaster that happens, that the phone lines get bogged down. But the phone lines going out of state aren't being used as much. And so it's much easier, for instance, for me to call my sister Tammy in Omaha, Nebraska, and then have her call into the state of Washington. There won't be as many calls coming into Washington state, but there will be a ton of calls going between people that are in Washington state. And so she is our contact person. So if something happens, family members would call her, and then she would then call back into us on our cell phones and try to get a hold of us. And so Facebook is another way that people do this to make this plan. So when you are finished with lesson 310, I want you to think about what your family's emergency plan is and maybe chat with them, and we will talk about this in class a little bit. And that is the end of the lesson.